Doomwave's back here, video time. Just got done recording the last backlog update video, and I wanted to talk about these two games because they have been sucking my life away. Etrian Odyssey 3 and Rune Factory. Now I know what you're thinking. These are very different games, and they really are. They're very different games. And thanks to this game right here, I will never, ever, ever, ever underestimate just good quality fun, because this game is fantastic. I absolutely adore this game. We're going to talk about this one first. Rune Factory, Fantasy Harvest Moon. Never played any of the Harvest Moon games before. I always viewed the series as something maybe girly or something, just not something I would enjoy, kiddish. And I never really knew what went into it. I never really understood what the goal was and what it was you were even doing in the game. Well, you're growing crops. Okay. Where's the fun in that? But and I still don't know exactly, how an actual Harvest Moon game works, because I still haven't played Harvest Moon. But after my recent obsession with this game, they are on my list, and I'm hoping to get my hands on a couple of them anyway. Maybe the ones on GameCube and the DS and the 3DS probably will be what I stick to. Just for continuity's sake. Okay, so if you don't know much about Rune Factory, from what I take from it, it is in fact just a fantasy Harvest Moon. It is basically the same, but there is an added aspect to it, and that is, of course, the fantasy aspect, where there is monsters and things you can fight, and also a story. So the story starts very basically with your main character, who you can name, but the name it prompts you with is name like Raguna or something like that. Raguna, which of course I just went ahead and picked that name because it's usually what I do. If it prompts me to use a name, I just use that name. So that's you. You wake up on this farm with amnesia, of course, the classic thing, shtick, cliche, whatever. You wake up with amnesia, you have no idea who you are, how you got there. Well, you know your name, because you tell them. This girl right here, Mist, is the one that finds you, and lends you this house and lends you this farmland, and basically says, get to work, and you can live here. You can live here for free if you just, tend the land and whatever. So then you take off. She gives you some seeds and a watering can, and you go throughout this village, and you gather some other tools. You're given an axe. If you got to talk to everybody basically, because certain people will give you certain tools that are pretty important. You're given an axe. You're given a hammer. You're given the watering can. Obviously, you're given a sickle, and you're given a hoe. Basically all the tools you need to do this farming. And so you get to farming. Sorry, my nose, allergies. So you start farming, and as you grow the land, and you're doing your farming thing, and you're harvesting crops and shipping them off in your little shipping box. You got to water most of the stuff every day, and it's actually a lot of work. I mean, I don't know. After a certain point, I ran out of things to do in a day starting out. So you'd get up in the morning, you'd go outside, you'd water your plants, and then you'd be out of energy because you have a health bar and a rune point bar. And the rune point is basically your stamina, your ability to do work. And then once you're pretty much out of things to do, you just kind of go to bed, or you go be social, you go talk to the people. There is like a dating, not really a dating sim, but a love sim, a marriage sim, in this too. I mean, there's you can court like 11 girls, something like that. There's like 11 available girls in the game, and you can court one or all of them, you know, and then you pick one to marry, you know, and you can update your house and all that stuff. You gather wood by using your axe. Every time you chop wood, it you know automatically goes into your wood pile, and you can extend your house and get you know stuff in your house, a kitchen, a forge, and that sort of thing. So you can like forge your own tools, make food, and you can give gifts to the girls and court them. And I haven't spent a lot of time doing that because I've been kind of trying to get into the other aspect of the game, which is aside from the farming. Once you get to a certain point with your farm and like the crops that you grow and the land that you've tilled and things like that, you get permission from the mayor to start going into these caves. And inside of these caves are these monster generator things that like make monsters appear, and they've never been there before, allegedly. And so your goal is now to figure out why they're there. So you go into the first cave and you kind of, you know, go throughout. There's different floors to the cave, and also you can plant plants or plant crops in the caves, which you know then becomes requirements to go into the next cave. Is like you have to till so many squares inside this cave to go into the next one, and blah blah blah. But it comes in handy because you know every time your crop bears fruit or whatever, it gives these rune points, which in turn gives you more stamina and your ability to fight, swing your sword. You have to buy a sword. That's like the one thing you're not given. You have to buy a sword, but it takes stamina to swing the sword. So you do plant crops in the caves, and it does help you progress through. Anyway, once you get to the end, the last part of the cave, if you've destroyed all these monster generators inside that cave, but they reappear if you leave the cave and come back, the generators reappear. But if in one go, you've destroyed all the monster generator things, and you get to the last room, there is a boss fight. And the bosses, at least I've only beaten 2 of them now. They've been pretty easy, but I think I'm really over-leveled. I'm like level 29 or something like that, because I've spent a lot of time farming and doing other things. But yeah, you beat the boss, and then he goes back to where he come from. Now the monster generators stay in the caves, but you won't ever have to fight the boss again. So then it becomes your goal, of course, to go to all the caves and send all the bosses back, all the main monsters back to where they came from. And then that's where, the story is, the story of the game. So I don't really know how Harvest Moon games work, but at least with Rune Factory, there is a story, and there is kind of an end to the game. Now, once you get there, once you've beaten all the monsters, I don't know if it just ends, or if you can continue to farm and build things and whatever. I don't know. So, from what I understand, it's basically everything that Harvest Moon is, all the farming and the friendship sim and the dating sim and the making items and forging tools and all that stuff, and plus this other fantasy aspect. Did I think that I would ever play this game? Absolutely not. Did I think that I would ever be this obsessed with it? Absolutely not. I know that my description of the game was probably really confusing, and for that I'm sorry, because I just kind of get it now, because I don't know if I've mentioned it in this video. I know I mentioned it in the last video. I've put almost 32 hours into this game. 31 hours and 47 minutes. That's a long time, and I've only had this game for about a week and a half, and I think that that is, I really do think that is the most, or the fastest I've ever played a game that much. 32 hours in like 10 days. That is freaking ridiculous. Now, I'm not sure that I'll actually do another video about this game. Maybe once I get done with it, if I ever get there, if I ever beat all the monsters, because it is gonna take a while. Even if I didn't do all the farming stuff and the dating stuff, even if I didn't do any of that stuff, which I am doing some of it, it would still take a long time to get strong enough to make it all the way through the caves, all the way through all the caves, to beat the monsters. Because, like I said, you have a very finite amount of stamina or rune points, and you do have to plant these crops inside the caves so that there's runes available for you to collect, so you can make it through the caves. And each cave has the same climate all year round, and there's a sign outside the cave that'll tell you what climate it is. It has the same climate all year round, so you're able to plant stuff one time, and it will always grow. Unlike in your field by your house, it changes with the season. In the wintertime, you're not able to grow anything because there's snow on the ground. But then in spring, you plant certain things, summer certain things, and fall certain things. And there's only one crop that I've found thus far in the game that will grow for all three of those growing seasons, and that is the grazing grass that you feed your animals. And that is the only thing that will grow in all three growing seasons. Everything else, if you don't cut it down before the season changes, overnight, if you don't cut it down, it's just going to be a dead plant when you wake up the next morning, which is fine. I mean, either way, it takes the same exact amount of energy to cut it down when it's alive or cut it down when it's dead. So, yeah. Needless to say, I'm kind of addicted to the game, and it's showing no signs of letting up. I haven't played it today. Let me just say that. It's like 11:30 at night, and I haven't played it today, so I might make it a whole day without playing it. But that's because I played this other game last night and today, which is my other obsession. Not quite as obsessed with this game. I love it just as much, but it's a little bit harder to spend so much time playing this game because, at least at the point I'm at right now, I'm doing a lot of grinding, but I am making some progress too, and of course that's Etrian Odyssey 3. This is my awesomely bad reprint cover. It's not really a cover, it's just a picture of some characters from the game, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time holding that up. But it's a first-person dungeon crawler, if you didn't know that, which I'm sure that all of my viewers know that about that game. First-person dungeon crawler, my first first-person dungeon crawler, first one I ever played. Really, I guess. RPG, and it is fantastic. I absolutely love Etrian Odyssey. Can't wait to get the rest of the games, including Millennium Girl, that's coming out next month, I believe. I'm very excited to get that, and from what I understand, it's a 3DS remake of Etrian Odyssey 1, which I'm not sure it needed a remake just yet, because, Etrian Odyssey 1 was just a DS release. But, that said, I'm not going to complain because it's getting a new coat of paint, and it's going to be in 3D, and it's going to have an actual story to it. From what I understand, there's going to be like a new, story-heavy mode, which is, not been that prevalent in Etrian Odyssey games thus far. I think 4 was a step in that direction, and then this new one is full-on, with anime cutscenes and things like that, which I'm totally okay with because that sounds amazing. But anyway, Etrian Odyssey 3, I am in the second stratum right now, the Undersea Grotto. I've spent about 24 hours in this game, and it is amazing. I love the combat. I love the different character classes. Love the variety of enemies. And my very favorite thing about this game, and I've said this before, and I might have even said it in the podcast, I think my very favorite part about this game is the part that I thought that I would like the least about this game. and that is the map making. Now, it does have an auto map on for the most part, as in when you're walking, you see the first person view on the top screen. You see what you're looking at. And on the bottom screen, it's got a map. And when I say auto map, it does highlight every time you move to a space, it highlights that space. But it's up to you to draw the walls where they are. Draw the walls in so you know the layout. And then there are certain tiles, at least on the first stratum, and I'm sure that there are on other ones too. I think maybe, I don't know if I've hit any on the second stratum yet. But at least on the first stratum, for sure, there are sticky tiles, which are tiles that are, it's one tile, but it's muddy or something like that, so it takes your character 2 turns to get over it, to move, step onto it, and to step off of it. It takes 2 turns as opposed to just one like a regular tile. And I think on the third stratum there are also like lava tiles, which cause you damage, will cause your party damage to walk over. But I think there are like some spells and maybe some armor that can help combat that once you get further in the game. But anyway, there are a couple of aspects about this game that I really enjoy. One of them is not only the map making, but the autopilot. And I've talked about it a little bit. I think I talked about it in the podcast too, and I know I've talked to Dustin, Steven, and some other people about it as well. You can set up, on your map, you can set up an autopilot, these autopilot arrows. And once you set them up, if you hit the play on the autopilot, it'll just take your character, around, to wherever you have it, wherever you have it going. And it's a really useful tool for grinding purposes. Because you are going to have to grind quite a bit in this game, and there are multiple reasons why, and I'm going to talk about them. But anyway, you can set up the autopilot to where it'll take you basically in a circle around the map, in whatever floor it is you decide to do this on. I did it a lot on the second floor of the first stratum. I did it a lot there because there was a lot of FOEs, which are kind of like mini bosses almost. They're enemies that you can see on the map, like you can see them pacing back and forth into like a certain corridor, and you can avoid them. You can time your steps just right to avoid them, or if you're strong enough to fight them, you just fight them, and then they go away for a certain amount of days, and then they regenerate. I'm not sure how that works yet. I haven't looked into it a whole lot, but once you get to a certain point, then you can just go pursuing the foes, or FOEs. I just call them foes. Pursuing the foes to grind, because for one, they give you a lot of experience, which turns into gaining levels and gaining skills and all that stuff. But it also generates, they drop an item. And it's usually, the item, when I say item, I don't mean it's like a potion. Usually what the items are a part of them that is useful, like a claw or something like that. But all of the enemies do this in the game. They don't drop money. They drop parts of themselves. A feather or a claw or something. Those are the ones I can think of right off the top of my head. A leg or a scale. Something like that. It'll drop those things. And it's very important to grind. Another reason, because of this. It drops these things. And it doesn't give you money. It just gives you these items. So what you do is you grind for a while, you get lots of experience, and you get a lot of these items collected, and then you go back to town, and you go to the shop, the only shop that's available to you, and you have to sell all of these things, and then they give you money, which is, I call it EN, because that's how it's the letters E and N, It's probably just said N or N. I don't know how you say it. I say EN because I don't know how else to say it. So you get EN for selling items, which in turn you have to pay to stay at the inn, INN this time. You have to pay to stay at the inn to rest your party, to heal, to regain your magic points and your HP. So you have to do that, and then you save at the end. Save often. I know this is not an SMT game, but it's still very important to save, because if you die, you lose shit, and that just sucks. But also, by gaining this EN, this money from selling these things, you can buy equipment, and the more variety of items that you sell, like, so the more different kinds of enemies you face, and the different kinds of things that you find, and you sell them to the shopkeeper, and then more items are available based on whatever it was that you sold. Different weapons, usually stronger weapons, or stronger armor, or armor and or weapons that have better abilities, or better medicines and things like that. So grinding is of the utmost importance, because not only do you get money so you can stay at the inn and heal and buy potions and weapons and stuff like that, but the more you grind and the further you go in the game and encounter different kinds of enemies that drop different kinds of things, the more variety of weapons and armor and medicines you have available to you. I know that was probably really confusing, and if you're familiar with the Etrian Odyssey games, you know all this anyway, but I just think it's kind of a cool motivation, I guess, to grind and spend some time grinding, and not just think of it as a burden, because in some RPGs that's all it is. It's just, God, this is what I have to do in order to face the next enemy, because that's the only way I can beat him, is if I'm stronger. It's like, well, yeah, you are kind of still doing that in this. I mean, you are essentially grinding at the very basic level. You are grinding to get stronger, to face stronger enemies, but you're also grinding to collect things, to in turn collect money and have more weapons and medicines available to you. So it's more of a motivation to grind, I guess, than just simply getting stronger. And I haven't decided yet if I can tell whether or not by gaining levels, if my characters truly get a whole lot stronger per level, or if it really is dependent on the skills that you choose to allocate the skill points. I haven't completely decided that yet, but I'm doing fairly well in that area, I guess. I think I'm about level 24, 25 across the board. I've got about 5 characters that I use all the time, and then I have 2 characters that are back, in the guild, just waiting to be called up if I need them. One of them is like a farmer type character who can mine for minerals and gather things, because not every character can do that in this one. And I forget what the other one's called, but he's like, I forget what the class is called, but I think he's like a demolitions kind of expert. He has like explosives and things. But the character classes that I'm using, I don't remember what they're all called. I'm using a gladiator, which I kind of regret, but I kind of regretted it first because he's extraordinarily weak, as in like can't take a hit, very low defense, very low armor. So I've spent the most time investing in his armor. Spent the most money investing in his armor because he is so weak like that. But he has the strongest physical attack of anyone. He's got a hellacious physical attack, which is why I kept him around. And then, you know, as I've progressed through the game, he's gotten a lot better, and he's definitely a very good character. He's on the front line. Also have a hoplite, I think is how you pronounce it. He's basically your fortress type character. Can take a beating. You know, has very high physical tolerance, and has a decent attack as well. And then I have a Zodiac, which is your elemental magic caster. Very useful, but has a horrid physical attack. So as long as you have a lot of magic points, you know, a lot of magic available to you, you'll do okay, because they have a pretty good elemental magic attack that's very heavy hitting. I have also a monk who has got an awesome barehanded attack. No weapons equipped, just bare hands. Bam. Good physical attack for bare hands. And also is my healer. All healing magics, you know, heal and refresh, which takes away status ailments and things like that. So, very useful character. And it is awesome that they have that my monk has such a awesome physical attack, as well as the healing magic, because I don't always need to heal. I don't need to heal every single turn, at least thus far. But maybe as I progress, I will. And my last character class that I use a lot that I use constantly is a wildling, and this is basically your druid type character. They can summon animals and things like that. Primarily right now, I've got a bird, a snake, and a mole that I can summon. Not all at the same time. I can only summon one at a time. But each one of those animals binds a certain part of your enemy. The bird obviously binds the head and makes them blind and so they can't do attacks as easily. One of the snake binds the body and, you know, prevents them from using, you know, upper extremities to, you know, use attacks. And then the mole, of course, binds the legs so they can't do like charging attacks. So yeah, I actually really love that character class. I wasn't sure about it at first, but once I got him leveled up a little bit and got the skills leveled up, and, you know, made the animals stronger themselves, they are coming in handy. And it's awesome because it gives your party, you know, a sixth member when you're fighting. You know, a sixth attack. You know, if you're fighting a stronger enemy, that comes in handy. But it does take magic points to summon, and they do run out of those because it takes quite a bit of points. It takes like 21 points to summon the bird one time, and he's only got like 80 points, something like that, of magic right now. But yeah, having a lot of fun with the game, needless to say. It's a really, really great RPG, and I cannot wait to get into the rest of the series. And I actually can't wait to get into the rest of the Rune Factory series either. I'm probably going to skip Rune Factory 2 and 3 for the time being. Not because I think that they're lesser games, because I don't know anything about them. I'm sure they're fine. But I am reasonably sure they're pretty similar to this. I know that the storyline will be different. So I do hope to get them eventually, but for now, I know that Rune Factory 4 is coming out for the 3DS in October or September, and I will have that. But I do want the Rune Factory games on the Wii too. But anyway, I've now gone on about these two games for nearly 30 minutes, and I'm sure that not all of you are still paying attention to me rambling now, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you listening to me ramble. Hopefully you're still watching, because that would be awesome. Once again, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Doomwaves out.